Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome. So today we're going to be starting the 7th chapter in the Higurashi When They Cry series. So the title is Minagoroshi. So it's been a while since I played the last chapter, right? I took a break a couple months and now we're finally here. So this one is another answer arc and they say this is the answer arc for the 3rd chapter, that's our Higurashi. So I've seen people have like tier list of which are the best chapters, and most of the time this one, chapter 7, was always on top. So I'm very excited for this one. Can't wait to see what happens, right? So yeah, let's start it. Oh, by the way, if I forget or forgot some of the stuff like in the past chapters, I do apologize, okay? It's been a couple months, so maybe I forgot some of them. So sorry about that. Okay, Massacre chapter. Massacre chapter. This story introduces the unit inside and out using all the actors. This is no longer a story, it is a public autopsy for all to enjoy. As they say, after loving someone, cut open their bellies and eat their organs. It's the same with the stories. The difficulty is quite mild, well suited for those with pride. Okay, so this chapter is gonna be very violent, very graphic. We'll see. So what is this? What are you doing? I don't see you playing by yourself that often. All you could do before was to nod to my questions. Since when do you have your own will? I'm glad. I finally have a sister or a brother. Whichever you are. I used to be an existence of nothingness just like you. But one day I began to have my own identity, my own thoughts, and eventually my own body. So it's not a surprise to see you in a possession of your own will. Welcome to this vast yet tiny world, my sister. You might be my brother, but let me call you my sister until I know for sure. This is an endless, eternal, and infinite world. But that doesn't mean it's boundlessly vast. I suppose you could describe it like a ring with a small diameter. While the ring is an eternal, endlessly looping world, that doesn't mean it contains infinite space. Yes, in short, this world is eternally sealed. The future is supposed to be an infinite weave of countless choices. Yet, for whatever reason, our world always ends in death. If I were to compare it to something, perhaps a maze of fate would be appropriate. Looping through the same moments forever steadily grows harder and more dejecting, eventually producing something like me. Then as that draws further on, even one like you is born, and eventually this world may be filled with your sisters too. After that, we'll build a colony inside of it, and once we lose our interest in this maze, Rika will disappear from this world. Okay. It looks like he's still clinging to this narrow world, Rika. Though I lost interest long ago. Which is why I am truly glad you were born for me to talk to. So, what are you doing? Are you collecting fragments of memory? We're seeing Satoko here. Satoko, Keiichi, I guess the gang? There are only 5 or 6 of them right now. It must still be fun for you though. There used to be more fragments long ago. But one by one they disappeared into the darkness. Now these are the only ones that remain clear. Oh, that's not how you're supposed to use it. See? Try and hold it up to the light. All of that is the life of Rika and its end. That one is... Oh, I remember that one. But what is this? This is a very different opening compared to the other chapters, right? That's the world when Keiichi was cursed. Oh, so this is the third chapter, right? Those fragments are like books to me, so I titled that one the Onikakushi chapter. Oh, the first one. Do you remember what happened in that one? Yeah, Keiichi gone crazy, right? Good. That makes things easier. In Onikakushi, Keiichi Maibara was consumed by the darkness. He couldn't accept the kind words his friends offered him and eventually beat them to death, not knowing of their kindness. Yeah, they actually showed this, right? Oh yeah, was it last chapter? But it was just Mion and Rena being nice to him, right? But he interpreted it differently. Because he was, what do you call it again? Oyashiro-sama's curse. Like he was super into it. Something like that, right? And then, yeah, he killed them because he thought that they were killing him instead. We were all killed after that anyway. That had nothing to do with the story though. That fragment is the Watanagashi chapter. Also, they're giving us so we can remember, the older chapter. So this is nice. Shion Sonozaki was the cursed in that one. She killed many people out of revenge for her boyfriend's disappearance as he went missing in 1982. Rika worked so hard, but she was captured at the end and she was tortured to death. That's why she chose to commit suicide in the Miyakashi chapter, because things were going to turn out the same way. That fragment over there is called the Taragoshi chapter. Yeah, it was Satoko and her uncle. Satoko's uncle came back and locked her up inside her house. That was the worst world of all. Honestly, yeah, the third one was very, very sad. Was it the worst episode? I don't know, the saddest episode, I mean? I think so, it was the saddest one, right? Like the Watanagashi chapters, the Shion and the Mion chapters I liked them because it was very mysterious, right? But yeah, this one, the third one, was the saddest one of all. There was nothing Rika was able to do in that world. Whenever Satoko's uncle comes back, Rika usually just gives up on that world. Fortunately, Satoko's uncle doesn't come back that frequently. That one is called the Chumi Horoboshi chapter. Rika was there until just a moment ago. And this one is Rena. The Rena chapter, right? Rena Ryuga was possessed in that world. It was pretty exciting to see her take over the whole school. Who died back then? I don't know when died, right? It was the... what do you call this? The tips? Was it the tips? I forgot what is it called. But... I don't know, the alternate endings. Yeah, the alternate endings were Mion died, right? But the canon ending was... no one died in the canon ending, right? The normal ending, I mean. It surprised me to learn that Keiichi Maibara had a memory of the other worlds just like we do. It was pretty amazing, but then again, most of us have some kind of memory like that. We all have an imaginary world within us, some idea of what would have been or what would have happened if you did things differently. It's like the strange feeling you get when you do something for the first time, but it feels like you've done it before. Like deja vu. Everyone has a memory of an imaginary world in their mind, but the memory is not always clear. It's not surprising, really. You are special enough to be able to see those fragments of memory. It's probably very difficult for you to understand how special you really are. You were born into a world where it's a natural thing for you to see these fragments. I was originally born in the normal world. I didn't know until recently that I could collect these fragments of memory. You grab those fragments just because you could, but I didn't know how to do that for a long time. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're not interested in hearing my story. What's wrong? What are you curious about? You're curious as to why so many different incidents occur in the same world? It's very interesting, isn't it? Why do you think that's the case? Let's think about it together. Thinking is the first step towards playing a game. The main character among Rika's group of friends is Keiichi Maibara. In Onikakushi, he was possessed by suspicion and killed Ren Ryugu and Mion Sonozaki. If that was an inevitable event, he would be killing them in every world. In other words, what Keiichi Maibara did in Onikakushi was not inevitable. Indeed. The only thing that's inevitable is Keiichi Maibara's role. If Keiichi was someone with a naturally suspicious heart, he would take the same actions in every world. True, yeah, it was different every time. But that didn't happen. It's true that Keiichi Maibara is both passionate and easily convinced of anything. Kinda true. But it's rare for him to exhibit the kind of rage he displayed in Onikakushi. But yeah, he displayed it as well in Higurashi, right? With Satoko's uncle. But yeah, he couldn't control himself anymore. Like, he was at a tipping point at that point, right? And then he did it to save Satoko. In other words, even though something might seem inevitable in one world, that may not be the case if you compare it to a different one. If something really is inevitable, it will happen for sure in every life. I think the only inevitable thing is, they die, basically, right? That's what true inevitability is like. It's very important that you know that. When you compare the different worlds, what's common among all of them is the truth. Understand? Like I said, what seems inevitable in one life could just be a random event in another. The club activities that Mion Sonozaki suggests are a good example. If Mion Sonozaki had a strong inclination toward playing certain games, you would be playing them in every world. But in reality, you participate in different activities most of the time. Yep, sometimes it's like card games, board games, and then sometimes it's actually like playing outside, right? That means the games they play in the club room are randomly decided by Mion Sonozaki. We know that because we've been through many different lives. Those who only live in one world can't see if the event in question is inevitable or random. Those who only live once can't predict what's going on in Mion Sonozaki's mind, but we can. Although the activities are random, Mion Sonozaki calls us together for the club meeting almost every day in every life. I can see that Mion Sonozaki holds a strong will towards having the club meeting. Mion Sonozaki always wants to play with the other club members, but she doesn't know what to play. See? We can read Mion Sonozaki's mind just by simply examining these fragments. With this alone, we can see part of who Mion Sonozaki really is. And let me talk a bit more about Keiichi Maibara. For those who only live once, the world of Onikakushi chapter is nothing but a story where Keiichi suffered mysterious hallucinations and beat his friends to death. For them, there's nothing beyond that fact. We, however, can compare different fragments and find out something they could never see. As a result, we know that the murder of his friends was not inevitable. I told you that just earlier. In fact, while there are about 5 or 6 pieces in front of you, he only kills his friends in one of them. True though, yeah, Onikakushi only, right? The second one, it was Shion, right? And then the third one, he didn't kill anyone except the uncle. Fourth one was a different story. Fifth one was the same as Higurashi but different perspective, right? The fifth one, I mean. The sixth one, it was Rena who killed people there, right? Yeah, it just happened once. That means we can roughly conclude that the possibility Keiichi Maibara triggers a tragedy is less than 20% and is almost a fluke. This means that amongst the countless worlds Keiichi Maibara Causing tragedy is an important factor. Now, can you find a common thread to be drawn from here? You found it already. No wonder you were born in this world. You were quick to learn the knack for playing with building blocks. I didn't figure that out for a while. But I was born in the world, so I could only see things from a single world's perspective. I was too obsessed with the fact that Keiichi Maibara caused a tragedy, so I had trouble finding it. Right, that's exactly right. You see it? The Onikakushi, Watanigashi, Meiyakashi, Chumi Horoboshi chapters all have something in common. Someone in the group becomes violent because of a dark and paranoid thoughts. True. In each world, either Keiichi Maibara, Shion Sonozaki, and then you got Rena Ryugu. Mion has not killed anyone, right? Yeah, Mion has not killed anyone. All of them are all my close friends, but they were all born and raised differently. The only common factor is they all live in Hinamizawa. I just said it not too long ago though. When we peer through these fragments of multiple worlds, the constant phenomena are facts and the chance phenomena hold a little meaning. In other words, the unrelated individual culprits are not all that important. To go further, the violence of their crimes also bears no meaning. Keiichi Maibara beat his friends to death. Shion Sonozaki killed the central people of the three families. Yeah, she killed every high-positioned member of the village, right? Not the village, but yeah, the three families. Shion Sonozaki killed... Okay, remember that? Ryugu took over the school. They were all different. There's nothing in common there. In fact, the very, very important truth is that while the culprit and crimes are decided at random, their process of growing paranoid until they resort to the violence is always constant. The suspect changes every time, but the process does not. After comparing the different worlds, this is the truth that I found. This one truth is the common to all worlds of Hinamizawa. Was it like Oyashiro-sama? The rule is that a random person becomes violent under the influence of paranoid thoughts. This is Rule X. Keiichi Maibara, Shion Sonozaki, and Rena Ryugu. Pieces with no particular connection have the potential to succumb to that rule with random possibility or probability. I don't know what the probability is that those pieces will be ensnared by that rule. Perhaps there's some rule to that too. Is it because these three are all close in age? Or is it because they all live in Hinamizawa? Well, we're not detectives or police officers. This is not something that a small girl like us, Rika Furude, can easily figure out. It is Rika. At least we know that there's a mysterious rule in the world of Hinamizawa. People who only live in one world have no way of knowing that. I'm proud of myself for figuring that out. I guess for you, it's not particularly surprising though? What did you say? That's right. If something is common among all worlds, that means it's fated to happen. Some events quickly come to mind, don't they? Yeah, this too. The best duo in the game. Tomitake always dying, right? And Miss Suspicious, Mio Takano are always skilled in those worlds. On top of that, they are murdered in exactly the same way in every world. True though, Tomitake is always dying, right? by, what do you call this? He's clawing his neck, right? And then he's bleeding out. In other words, unlike our previous rule with its variability, their murders are totally planned out by someone with a strong will. So that does not fit the mysterious vague rule X that leads a random individual to violence. After all, they were always murdered, regardless of who falls to rule X. Therefore, there's another rule to these worlds, a rule that says Jiro Tomitake and Miyo Takano will get killed on the night of the Watanagashi, so let's call it Rule Y. Don't you see how funny this is? Honestly, who's talking, by the way? Rika Furude is talking, right? Is she talking with someone? Jiro Tomitake and Miyo Takano are killed in every world, right? Every time the character who gets cursed always thinks that their deaths have something to do with the danger that's awaiting them. The fact that someone turns violent, Rule X, and Jiro Tomitake and Miyo Takano's deaths, Rule Y, are supposed to be independent rules. But they all tend to link them together. Of course, one could say that's how they become ensnared in a spell of paranoia leading them to violence to begin with. But do you think in their paranoia that they notice someone is trying to lead them to link those rules together? Yes. Whoever that piece leading them is, they are the one making the stage called Hinamizawa very complicated. You should have noticed at least two suspicious people. I mean, Takano is the most suspicious all the time, ever since in the beginning. Do you know who I'm talking about? That's right. See? Takano. And Oishi. Oishi's pretty good though. When you compare our previous fragments, the role of the piece known as Kurado Oishi becomes clear. He's a detective who is retiring this year and he's in a hurry to solve the mystery of the serious deaths in Hinamizawa. After he retires, he'll have to move away from the village. That's why he's desperate to solve this case before he has to leave Hinamizawa. But why is he so obsessed with the serial murders in Hinamizawa? And it's very dangerous, right? He's retiring already. But he wants to do this. He wants to finish this. That's right. It's because of the first murder involving the manager of the construction site. The victim was Oishi's close friend. Okay, yes, I kind of remember that. You will see that if you look at the Himachibushi chapter. Oishi was there when the dam conflict was at its peak, the 4th chapter, right? He saw how the Sonozaki family took control of the Onigafuchi Guardians and he believed that the Sonozaki family was pulling the strings behind the whole incident. That's why he always suspected that the Sonozaki family was behind the series of mysterious deaths, regardless of the evidence or lack thereof. His personal biased belief combined with his credibility as a police detective affected the pitiable victims of persecution complexes in each world. As a result, the pitiful victims of Rule X come to accept the Sonozaki family as the identity of the unknown force their paranoia speaks. Shion Sonozaki's case was the most conspicuous one in that matter. So yes, if this piece Oishi didn't intervene, then perhaps the victims of Rule X wouldn't have resorted to such violence. So the role his piece plays is to indirectly cause the tragedy. He has a nickname, right? Oh yeah, Oyashiro-sama's servant. Yes, this is his nickname. Is the perfect nickname for Oishi. The other suspicious person is Miyo Takano. Most suspicious one ever since I played the first chapter. I was so suspicious of her. Yes. One would assume that the only role of her piece is to amuse herself with the research into the Onigafuchi's dreadful history and to take pleasure in scaring others with those tales. However, just like Oishi, she also gives him the idea that the Sonozaki family is behind all the mysterious incidents that happen in the village. She interfered the most with Ren Ryugyu. So yeah, this was the last chapter. She gave Ren some, what do you call that, diaries, right? And it pretty much messed up Ren after that. For me, it's Akano, or Ren Ryugyu was the perfect prey, grasping at straws to try and identify the force she suspected. If I remember correctly, when we were doing the tips, right? They said that Mio Takano had a lot of different diaries, right? Like different, what do you call this? Theories and stuff, right? And she just gave one of them to Rena, and then Rena took it to heart. And then she became crazy afterwards. She got paranoid, right? A lot. Ironically, however, Mio Takano was always ends up getting killed at the end. If she had survived and seen Rena take over the school, she would have laughed long and loud. Now, have you realized that these two pieces and the roles they fulfill have their own rule too? They talk about the Sonozaki family and the listeners always believe them. This is Rule Z, and what a humorous rule it is. You should already have an answer to this mystery in your fragments on hand. The fact is that the Sonozaki family always acts as if they're responsible no matter if they are not. They always pretend to be the villains in order to make sure that the people continue to fear them. This is true, yes. What was the name of the elder? Oreo, right? I think she said this that... Was it her or was it the younger Mion? I kind of forgot, but... They just claim it, right? But sometimes in reality, they didn't do anything, basically. As a result, the villagers have believed the Sonozaki family has been pulling the strings ever since the damn conflict ended. Kurado, Oishi, and the Mio Takano were simply fooled by that rule. Actually, the whole village is fooled by it. Still, the more I think about it, the stranger the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa seems to me. He. Do you know why? Nearly all of the fragments of memories we have here are from 1983. So I have no idea about the incidents from 1980 to 1982. But it's likely that interpreting these murders as serial is simply a result of falling victim to Rule Z, believing that the Sonozaki family is pulling the strings behind everything. In short, they may be trying to conflate those multiple crimes, which each happen for different reasons, into one big case. Well, I have no way of discerning the truth from the fragments here. Still, perhaps something lies in one of them? Each case was supposed to have been solved individually after all. We don't know if that theory is sound or irrational, but it might surprisingly be an element we can't ignore. That reminds me, Shion said something intriguing in the Miyakashi chapter. The curse system she came up with. Do you remember that? Who did it again? Shion? Okay. Her theory was that the villagers believe that they are allowed to kill an enemy of the village on the night of the Watsunegashi in the name of Ayashiro-sama. And that's its foundation of murder is allowed on the night alone, is the true identity of the curse. Since most fragments here are from 1983, there's nothing to back the validity of Shion's theory, but there are still interesting things about it. In other words, her theory is that the suspect is not the one who's committing the crime. It's the environment that's causing the murder. People in a single world tend to analyze a criminal's life to determine the process that led him to crime, but her idea is different. The real crime is committed not by criminals but by the environment. In other words, it may be happenstance that robber A committed the crime, and the environment of poverty may have created robber B instead, or perhaps even robber C. A may not even be a criminal in another world. Therefore, the real criminal is not A, but the environment that creates A, B, or C. And well, while people in a single world may able to reach such an idea, that widespread desire to place blame commonly causes A to be lynched by society while the environment that gave rise to A goes ignored. Did I confuse you? A little bit, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, it's okay. Perhaps that example was actually harder to understand for you. Okay. It's easy for me to see it like that because I'm from the normal world. Okay, let me make it simple for you. The culprit behind the tragedy in many worlds isn't individuals like Keiichi Maibara or Shion Tsunezaki, but the environment. So Rule X is the true culprit at fault. You're earning good marks if you can grasp that, even if we don't know the identity of Rule X. And if you can grasp the 3 rules governing the stage called Hinamizawa, Rule X, Y, and Z, then you're earning very good remarks or very good marks. So long as you understand those rules, then even if this is your first experience world, you should easily find the truth without distraction. See? Isn't it fun? Merely 3 simple rules are interacting on the stage, creating a kaleidoscope of different worlds. This is probably a very unusual case. In other locations, you shouldn't be able to see such extreme variation even after looping through several worlds. It keeps me entertained just staying here and watching these worlds revolve. Anyway, there is one more fact we can understand from these fragments of worlds. This is the biggest problem we Rika Furudes are facing. We Rika Furudes. The fact that the Rika Furude always dies each time. So how many times did they show that Rika dies? In Onikakushi, I actually don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember every time she died. But yeah, on some other ones I think they showed it, right? But I think the earlier chapters they didn't. I mean, Watsunagashi she died. Miyakashi she died. I just say all of them, right? But the Onikakushi I think they just didn't show it, right? It's as if June 1983 is the dead end for her. Worse, there's no randomness to it, it's guaranteed to happen. In other words, it's the same pattern as the deaths of Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano. It's following the exact same rule, Rule Y. Tomitake Jiro and Takano Mio are always murdered on the night of the Watsunagashi. Furude Rika's death or date of death is not always the same, but she's always dead by the middle of June. Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano are probably attacked on their way home, so that's why it always happened on the same night. Like this, the night of the Watsunagashi, right? All the time, right? But for Rika Furude, it's different. She takes different actions in every world and her lifestyle is very, very unpredictable. For that reason, the day of her death is not always the same. However, she always dies in June. Because a similar powerful conviction vows to kill her too. So can we assume that the same rule Y, killing them, is also the rule behind her death? Is the same person killing all 3 of them? I don't know if it's the same person, but it's highly likely the same rule is at work. Is it the same person? Is it the same person or the same organization? Is it the same views? The same goals? Rika's most important goal is to escape her deadly fate. But it doesn't mean that she just wants to leave the village and survive. She wants to live happily in the village. All of her friends must also be happy too. That's Rika's happy future. The ideal future she hopes for. It's tragic that we can't realize such simple desire no matter how many times we repeat this. Though it's a tragedy we're only able to perceive because we're beings capable of comparing the fragments from different worlds. By the way, I have some interesting information. While Rika is almost always killed by Rule Y, have you noticed that she's killed by Rule X in some world? Right. It happened in Watanagashi in the Miyakashi chapters. Yeah, Rika Furude committed suicide, but you can say she was more or less killed by Rule X via Shion Sonozaki. Kinda right, it was showed in Miyakashi. In Watanagashi, she was already dead, right? We didn't see any scenes, she was just missing by then, right? And then in Miyakashi, she confronted Shion, right? And then she killed herself. And then she was saying Hanyu. I remember that. In other words, this is a blunder of Rule Y. Rule Y is trying to kill Rika with a strong desire to achieve some aim, but she was killed before that as a result of the unrelated Rule X. That might have caused them to show some disturbance. If Rule Y's objective is simply to bury Rika, then that's not a problem. But if they have some objective beyond that, then that might show up as some other phenomenon. Perhaps the Watanagashi and the Miyakashi chapters have something in common. Something that doesn't happen in other worlds. Unfortunately, we are Rika Furude, so we don't know what happens after Rika is dead. So what happens, by the way, after she's dead? Like she just goes back? Or, by any chance, do you know what happened? Since I'm Rika Furude, I only know events during Rika's life. You, on the other hand, are a special existence who was born in a superior world. Is there anything that didn't happen in Watanagashi and the Miyakashi chapters? I don't remember. That happened in all the other worlds after Rika's death? If you know anything, then that must be another truth behind Rule Y. Dude, I should have written what Rule Y and Rule X is. Yeah, I'm kind of getting confused now because I didn't remember it. I'm sorry. The memories I have here are all mainly about the chaos brought about by Rika's friends. That is Rule X. But it's the foundation of Rule Z. And the obvious hostility common among all worlds, Rule Y, are what I believe to be the true rules governing this stage. If so, then Rika's path is a thorny one. She needs to fight Rule Y in order to survive. Unless she defeats it, she has no future past June 1983. And to win her own happiness, she must also beat Rule X to win her friend's safety. So as long as that's undefeated, one of Rika's precious friends may be led to tragedy. If that happens, then even should Rika survive, she wouldn't have the happy future she hopes for. She always may have to defeat Rule Z, just as Onozaki Shion faced it in Miyakashi. So long as Rule Z remains, then even if she accepts 1983, it's possible another tragedy may lie waiting in 1984. It's extremely likely that Rule Z is the breeding ground for Rule X. Hinamizawa's fundamental belief that Sonozaki family is behind everything and the custom that anything can be misconstrued as a curse may indirectly be the root of all evil here. People are not surprised to see somebody die on the night of the Watanagashi. That type of thinking is keeping the curse alive in Hinamizawa, where it causes even more tragedy. It's Rule Z and reinforcing itself. Rule X, Y, and Z. There are three rules that hunt Rika down in the eternal June of 1983. They are all tough obstacles. We didn't even figure out these three common rules until recently. Were you aware of them? If you were, I'll give you straight A's. I've tried so hard in the past to break these rules, but I was never successful. However, a miracle happened in the Chumihoroboshi chapter. Is that when Keiichi remembered? Is that it? Keiichi yes, he is this one, was able to recognize a small fragment from another world by chance, and he beat Rule X. In the end, Rika was still killed that night by Rule Y though. But still, one rule was defeated. That was a huge leap forward. Rika knew there were 3 common rules among the worlds, but she could never break any of them. Eventually, she gave up and lost interest in the worlds. That's how I was born. However, she's different now. She learned something valuable from Keiichi Maibara. That the rules can be broken with a strong enough will to fight. If she can break all 3 rules, Rika Furude will be freed from eternal prison. She doesn't have much time left though. Rika has traveled through many worlds. Yeah, it makes sense though. Like you can see Rika right in the other chapters. Like there are times when she looks forward. She doesn't look like she's the young Rika anymore. She looks like a Rika who experienced a lot of things, right? She's even drinking booze, right? If I'm correct. Sometimes when in her house, right? And then she's talking to another person that we couldn't see. Her physical lifespan is not a problem, but her mental lifespan is getting shorter. Mentally, she is extremely old and her soul is starting to turn into something different. Yes. In the end, she'll probably lose the ability to experience singular worlds. So this gotta end now, right? Or soon, I mean. She's already showing those signs, and eventually her memories from the parallel worlds will mix together, ultimately causing her derangement and the loss of Rika Furude's soul. Then she will disappear. That means that you and I are going to be left in this world. The fragments of our memories will gradually disappear and we will be left alone in the eternal darkness. Eventually, we will die. Rika Furude is aware of that. She knows that her mental lifespan is getting shorter and shorter. Hanyu is also losing her powers. Hanyu. I don't remember when the first time we heard Hanyu though, but maybe it was in the Miyakashi arc, right? The first answer arc. I think it was there. Because yeah, Rika was saying Hanyu when she was when she was killing herself basically, right? She can rewind through years of time like she used to. Her power has decreased so much that she can barely rewind to 1 month of a time. So how old is Rika? So maybe she's like 100 years old? She's been repeating this thing or this stuff that has been happening with her friends for maybe, let's say at max 100 years, but I doubt it though. It is way too long, right? The suffering you have to go through with that, right? Living through all those worlds, and yeah, you just end up defeated every single time. Actually, she can only rewind a few weeks. In the next world, she only have about 2 weeks of time. Rika Furude is going to try and break all 3 rules in just those 2 weeks. A couple weeks left. It's getting shorter and shorter. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I tried to claw my way up from there. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I continued to climb even when I fell and injured myself. I finally realized the higher I climb, the more pain I feel when I fall. When my curiosity toward the world and my physical pain become equal, I finally understood. That was way too fast. This is fiction and this is chapter 7, Minagoroshi. Damn, that opening. That was a lot, I'm not gonna lie. And it was nice because they're giving us a little bit of refresh, right? A refresher to the series. So that's pretty cool that they did that. I did not expect this. I thought we were just gonna go like the normal route and then open the game, start it, and then we're gonna start back with one of Keiichi's friends or Keiichi himself. But this was an extremely different opening. I felt no gravity in the darkness and lost all my senses as a result. I banged my head on the floor with a dull thud. Seeing stars behind my eyelids, I curled into a ball while holding my head in pain.
大丈夫
Mion. Dude, I missed this, the voice acting. Yes, it's been a while.
怪我はないリカ返事をしてくださいまし
I had no idea why I was in this situation, but as soon as I heard her voices from the top of the cliff, I realized that I must have fallen. Ah, I remember. I was playing behind the shrine with the rest of the club members. I got too excited and started doing something very dangerous. Then the tree branch broke. So were Rika's perspective. That's how I fell off the cliff. My body started to ache all over. Remember, I just what do you call this? Notice it. Yeah, Rika dies all the time, right? So does she feel it? That's way too sad, right? She dies every single time, and then she, and the time goes back, right? So does she? So yeah, I guess she felt it every single time she dies. Dude, imagine that. How miserable is that? And then you remember it all the time. For who knows how many times it happened, right? So sad for Rika. I couldn't remember what I was doing. No, it was more that I couldn't remember who Rika Furude was before I fell off the cliff. Oh, it was Hanyu? I thought it was Rena. Okay, I thought it was Rena was doing that. Oh, this is Hanyu. I looked behind me and saw Hanyu standing there with a scared look on her face.
Hanyu. これは一体何事なのはうはうリカはみんなと遊んでて崖から転げ落ちたのです大丈夫なのですか羽生そんなことはどうでもいいわ
But it's Rika's pretty good though, right? If she can see Hanyu like this normally, she's very good on pretending not to see her, right? Because in the like the earlier chapters, you don't even realize that she's talking to someone, right?
今日はいつ昭和何年の何月何日
I always ask this question first when something like this happens. She finally realized that I was asking the same old question.
昭和58年6月なのです。綿流しのお祭りが再来週なのですから、なんてこと。それしか猶予がないってわけ。
So you got like 1 week and a couple of days, I guess.
僕たちの力もこれが精一杯なのです。
Hanyu muttered regretfully. It was the middle of June 1983. If this really was the best she could do, I had no choice. I couldn't complain. I gradually started to remember more things.
私がまた昭和58年の6月にいるということは、また私は殺されたのか。
Oh, so she doesn't remember how she gets killed. So, okay, I guess that's okay. Right? Because she doesn't feel it anymore. Because, yeah, see, I was killed again. She's saying that. She doesn't remember, I guess, and also who kills her, right? Yeah, I kind of forgot about that as well. So she doesn't really know who kills her. So you can't really stop it because you don't know who is doing it, right? Yep. After Rena surrendered to the police, all of the classmates were given checkups at the clinic. I didn't get hurt, so I was sent back home after determined that I had no injuries. So up until what does she remember though? My memory started getting vague from that point on. So I guess near the end of her life on that world, right? And then I guess the memories just cut off after then. A common characteristic of my violent deaths. When my life is taken away violently, the memory before the death becomes vague with static. It's like a violently ripped roll of toilet paper. That example should make it easy to understand even if it's uncouth. Uncouth. That's why I have no clear memory of what happened and how I died that night. I only have vague memories. I think someone covered my mouth with a handkerchief or something and I passed out. That's about the only thing that I remember and only vaguely. I'm not sure if it really happened. The only thing I know for sure is that I was attacked on my way home or possibly after I got there, and that I was murdered suddenly. I don't know who killed me or how I was killed. Okay, so she doesn't really know. Imagine that, right? Let's say hundreds of times of her going back in time, and she doesn't even know who kills her every time. Damn. I'm glad that at least I don't remember the horrific ending to my life every time it happens. I mean, yeah, be glad. Because if you know that, you'll probably break already. Imagine that, the feeling, right? All the time it happens, and you're remembering how it happens. Because of my experiences, I think I now understand why ghosts wander around this world, not knowing that they died so suddenly. If it's a death from a long-lasting illness, people tend to remember that they were sick. They can kind of assume that they died after being sick for a long time. But when your memory is violently disrupted like mine, it can get quite confusing. When I first experienced this, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or not. I even thought that I hit my head hard and lost my memory. Sorry if I'm reading the first line again. Accidentally, sorry. I need to organize things before I get too confused. My name is Rika Furude. People look at me in a special way, but that's not a big deal for me. All I want is a happy life where I can play around with my best friends. I can't remember how long I've been living just for the sake of obtaining that simple happiness. This Hispanic girl here is named Hanyu. I'm the only one who can see her. So she's kinda like transparent a little bit. Perhaps she only exists inside of my head. At any rate, Hanyu's invisible and it can generally only interact with me. It'll be a long story if I try to explain Hanyu's existence, so I won't be doing that right now. Besides, I don't even know how I should talk about her. She's been there since I was born and her existence is a natural thing for me. I saw everyone running up the gravel road toward me. They're my important and lovable best friends. Our group's active and boisterous and we get serious about doing stupid things. I am never bored when I'm around them and I love them very much.
Rika-chan, 大丈夫? 捻挫とかしてない? どこ打ったの? おじさんに見せてみて。
Let this old man again.
ありがとうなのです。頭にタンコブができただけなのですよ。
I think all I got was a bump at least. My injury wasn't so serious or as serious as everyone thought.
頭を打った時はその場では大丈夫でも油断がなりませんでしたよ。
それもそうだな。念には念で監督に診察してもらった方がいいかもしれないな。
レナもそれがいいと思うな。どうしよう、監督を呼んでくる？そうだね。近くの家で電話を借りて監督を呼んでみるよ。そこまでしなくても大丈夫なのですよ。この通りピンピンしてますのです。ニパー。ダメですわよリカ。万が一ということがありましたよ。
Satoko warned me with a stern voice. It really wasn't a big deal, but I decided to nod since Satoko was trying to be generous. She wasn't trying to boss me around or anything. She was only saying that because of how much she cares. I've seen it before in the many different lives that I've been through. I have no doubt that she's really concerned about me. It's not just Satoko. Mion, Rena, Keiichi are the same. They're also nice to me and they truly do care. Mion left to look for her phone. Rena also left with a towel looking for the water tap. Satoko remained nearby taking care of me with a worried face. And Hanyu was just standing there, still wearing a panicked look. Keiichi seemed to be panicked too, but he was trying not to show it. He was standing by me wearing a calm expression.
大丈夫か？
大丈夫なのですよ。もう全然痛くないのです。
なら不幸中の幸いだったよな。よかったよかった。
I wouldn't feel anything special about his words if this was a while ago. But at the moment when Rena took over the classroom when she hurt Mion, I love how she's referencing the other chapter, right? I like that, yes. Keiichi tried his best to save Rena, even so, he was more reliable than I ever imagined from his normal behavior. He's usually an insensitive guy who hurts other people's feelings without noticing, but that's not his true self. He has a secret side he's willing to sacrifice himself for other people. I was just observing that not too long ago. That's why I can honestly feel his generosity now. Now that I think about it, Keiichi regained the memory from another world the previous time around. Is it possible that he carries that memory in this world too? If that's the case, I have some hope. Hanyu and I are totally powerless. Hanyu is only like heir to everyone but me, and I'm just a little girl. There's only so much that we can do ourselves. But Keiichi is different. He changed the fate that I had once resigned myself to. He's somebody who may have the power to take me to my unseen future. If I can get Keiichi to understand me, he could be my hero. Perhaps I'm actually not expecting that much out of him. I just want someone to understand my struggle of being stuck in this maze.
Keiichi?
Okay. It had been a while since I felt so nervous. I hadn't felt this way since I started my endless life in 1983. As a witch, I normally would know what his response would be before even talking to him. I often remain silent because I already know how pitiful the reply would be. But in that case, why was I so nervous now?
呼んだか、リカちゃん。
Hanyu gave me a disappointed look before I responded to Keiichi.
Rika.
I could tell what Hanyu was thinking too. The miracle wasn't going to happen. If miracles do happen, one could have happened many times in my other lives. But I've only seen one miracle before. The miracle that Keiichi gave me was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of miracle. Only if it happened again would it be a true miracle. I won't get out of this world just because I rolled 6 on the die once. I can't get out unless I get a miracle that's equivalent to getting 6 on the die 10 times in a row. And so I rolled 10 dice wishing that they all turn out to be 6.
Keiichi.
どうしたんだよ。どこか痛むのか？
He looked at me worriedly after I called his name twice.
ケイイチは覚えていますですか？
She's gonna ask if Keiichi remembers the other world, right? So maybe she could get help. I don't think she wants to say it outright. Because if she says it outright, I guess no one would believe her anyways, right? So if someone does remember, and then, yeah, that's gonna be much more better. But yeah, Keiichi did show it a last chapter, so maybe he will. But I guess right now we're just starting this game. Or yeah, this chapter. I don't think he will remember. I knew how sudden my question was. As I thought he would, he looked at me with a confused face.
え？覚えてるって何の話だよ。
I looked in his eyes to see his true feelings. He should remember. He should know. Even though he doesn't have the memory, Keiichi experienced it.
なんですの、ケイイチさん。何かリカに悪いことでもしたんじゃありませんの？
Satoko. Did I remember the days in the opening and the earlier chapters? We always had fun, right? And now it's super serious all the time. I want to go back to that time.
自分の胸によく聞いてごらんなさいですわよ。ケイイチ、学校の屋根の上に登ったことを覚えていますですか？
So she's referencing the end of chapter 6, yes, when Keiichi and Rena fought.
学校の屋根？ケイイチさん、そんなとこに登ったんですの？サトコは黙っててなのです。ケイイチ、覚えていませんですか？
俺が？屋根の上に？いつ？いや、リカちゃん、それは多分他の誰かの勘違いだろ。俺屋根なんか登ったことないし、登り方だって知らないよ。
Of course, you haven't experienced it in this world yet. But please tell me that you remember. I know you've never been up on the roof, but you should still remember doing it. You shouldn't be able to remember it, true, but you actually did once. You should be able to remember it once again.
屋根の上にボールでも取りに行ったんじゃありませんの？
いや、そんな経験一度もねえよ。サトコは経験あるか？
まさか。屋根の上なんて上がったら先生に怒られましたよ。
でもさ、屋根の上で昼寝とかしたら気分が良さそうだよな。
覚えてるわけないのですよ。そんな簡単に奇跡が起こるなら、僕もリカもこんな苦労はしないのですよ。
Shut up. I knew that. I knew that he wouldn't remember. I mean, obviously, but yeah, Rika's just hoping that maybe, right? Maybe.
どうせまた僕たちはお祭りの終わりとともに消えてゆく夏のセミの運命なのです。うるさいな。
As I stared at her fiercely, Hanya realized that she had crossed the line. This might be a waste of time. The maze we're in might not have an exit. It might be an endless loop without a goal in place. We are trapped in this phase. I thought that Keiichi might be able to get me out of here. But that Keiichi I saw was truly a miracle, a momentary glimmer. Like, what do you call this? It was just luck, I guess, right? That it happened there. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen in this chapter as well, right? But not now, probably. Or not now for sure, I mean. Maybe later. The Keiichi of this world doesn't bear that same miracle. All the same, I'm not gonna give up. Last time too, I gave up on fighting destiny. I realized Rena was beyond salvation, so I bid farewell and forsook that world. I mean, Rena was way over the top already, right? When Rena told them that she killed, what's her name again? The one with the pink hair, right? and Satoko's uncle. It was pretty much done by then. That was early in the chapter, by the way, as well, right? But Keiichi fought and broke the cycle of fate. I should have worked harder with that Keiichi in that world. I could have broken this endless cycle together with him. Am I going to repeat this life waiting for that miracle to happen again? I can't do that. I don't want to repeat the same life anymore. I am tired of it. I am tired of this world, my fate, and everything. I am tired of getting murdered by my destiny. Keiichi showed me a miracle. I should be able to do the same too. I must fight. I must fight with all my remaining power. I was always fighting. I was fighting when I had more power, but I never made it. How can I expect to win this time? Still, I must fight. Keiichi taught me that fate can be shattered. I'm going to fight one more time. And you're gonna win. Maybe. You're gonna win. You're gonna win, Rika. Don't worry about it. We're in chapter 7, so we're very close. Oh, tips already. Okay. To my granddaughter. I'm sorry for leaving you like this. I just need you to understand I'd rather take my own life than be fearful of how many days I have left to live. What is this, Oreo? Wait, what did she say again? Need to understand I'd rather take my own life than be fearful. That's why I'm writing this letter to you. I can't stand the fear of being unable to leave behind a will while my life is prolonged, even as I lose my consciousness. This is not Oreo. Yeah. In the end, there's nothing I can leave behind for you. I was unable to leave any of my achievements in this world. I was forgotten before I was dead. I leave this world a humiliated man. Oh, it's a guy. Knowing that I had no appreciation from anyone. You must do better than me. You must achieve something that your grandfather was never able to achieve. I don't mind what field you choose. You must leave your mark in this world. You must leave behind your achievements. You will eventually die someday. You will eventually turn to ashes. As a human being, that's your inevitable fate. Yeah. Sad, but it's true. It's gonna happen to every one of us. But if you achieve a great success, you will live forever even after you depart. Yeah, like people in the past, right? We still remember what deeds they did. Those who live beyond their deaths are called gods. I wish to become one, but I wasn't able to do so. So in my place, you must become a god someday. Oh, that was it. So what is that? Grandfather to my granddaughter. So who's the granddaughter? Maybe Hanyu, right? There's no one else, right? Maybe Hanyu. Maybe we'll learn more of this, right, as we go through this chapter. So yes, we started this chapter. Very, very nice opening, honestly. Very, very different. I did not expect that, as I said earlier. But it was nice because pretty much they explained not all of it, but what's happening basically, right? What has happened from the first chapter to the latest, or the 6th chapter that we did, right? Like some catch up. Honestly, it's kind of hard to remember some of the stuff that's happened on, like the little things that happened on chapter 1 to 6, because yeah, it's been a couple of months for me. And yeah, when they were talking earlier, it's hard to remember. Yes, it's just hard. Like, when was this game released again? And what is the timeline between the game's releases, right? I can't even imagine, right? For example, playing one game and then one chapter and then the next chapter released, let's say next year or 6 months, and then after that 6 months again, 6 months to 1 year for the next chapter. Yeah, I should have played. I shouldn't have took a break, honestly, when I played this one. I should have just continued. Yeah, when we do, I guess, Umineko, I'll prepare myself for that. I will do it straight. Yeah, I will not take a break for that one. But yeah, at least for this one, I still remember most of the, what do you call this? The not best, but the important ones. Yeah, the important stuff. I still remember the important stuff. So it's good. It's good. So yes, there's gonna be a fun, I guess, chapter 7. A lot of things are gonna happen. It said, yeah, massacre chapter, right? So this is gonna be very bloody, probably, and I can't wait to see what happens, right? So yes, we're gonna continue this and do more of the 7th chapter of Higurashi When They Cry, called Minagoroshi, in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.